so that I would be Yes, so that I would be more competitive, for ultimately what I want to do with my career, which is to be a AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellow. I really want to get on the Hill. I want to advocate and use science to intervene and create health and educational policy for marginalized groups. And I think that with the experiences that I've been gaining in my postdoc, working within the community, getting more techniques with working with disadvantaged populations, fMRI, and all of the different data techniques and analyses that we're doing, and epidemiology. I never thought I would be stepping into that. So yeah, that is ultimately where I hope to go. And that's how my journey ultimately started here.
Great. Do we have any immediate questions for Paige about her trajectory? If not, we'll move on to the next speaker, but just in case anybody wants to ask anything of Paige right now.
Yeah, I have one.
So, yeah.
Hello. For those who don't know me, hey, Dr. Greenwood. Hey, girl.
Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you, girl. We both went to / go to UC, so she's so awesome, and everybody on this call is also awesome. For those who don't know me, I'm Dominique, current YCA fellow. My question is, so you said you're not really in like your career yet, but slowly making progress. Do you see what you're doing now kind of overlapping what you want to do a little bit, or do you feel like you're just gonna go forward and do something completely different?
I absolutely think everything is kind of aligning exactly the way it's supposed to. Again, I really wanted to work within with marginalized groups and use science communication and science advocacy to provide recommendations, talk about the science, because we're doing so much data analysis, but how are we applying it to our community? How are we talking about it with people who are writing the legislation? And I've been able to kind of dive into a couple of those opportunities while I'm in my postdoc. For those of you who are interested in science policy, think about applying for the Early Career Policy Ambassadors Program with the Society for Neuroscience. I'm currently within that cohort. Actually, the application just opened, but because my research combines epidemiology and neuroscience, environmental health disparities, I was able to invite a representative from Congressman Espaillat's office to come and listen to our researchers and to our facilities. And that was a really awesome experience for me to, learn how to cut out jargon, learn how to really, get to the point and get to the facts and tell them why they should be supporting science. And I feel like that directly applies to the career that I want to go into, working on the Hill in some type of format in government, or maybe doing some type of nonprofit organization. So yeah, I think it's going exactly the way it's supposed to, in a very long answer.
No, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. It's good to see you, Dom. We'll have to catch up later.
Yes, we will. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'll elevate what Paige said. I think for science policy in particular, the more you can demonstrate an expertise in an area that touches on policy issues, the more I think opportunities you'll have. People will understand a little bit better how your research actually intersects with societal issues. And I think in Paige's case, it seemed like the research you were doing for your PhD wasn't really in the type of policy topics that you wanted to address. Now you're doing a postdoc that really is working with those communities. So you can come to the policy table with a more direct expertise with those populations and be a better advocate for them because you've actually studied with them those topics. So it's super exciting. All right, so with that segue, let's go with Denise. Do you want to share your PhD to post-PhD experience?
Yeah, very similar to Paige. I was also in that transition of finding out what I wanted to do with my life when COVID hit. I actually defended in the middle of lockdowns in my living room. So that was a very unusual transition, I would say. There were multiple challenges on my last few years of my PhD, and one of them being that it took me by surprise when, how do I say it? It took me by surprise, like how early I graduated. I thought I had 6 to 1 more year left on my PhD when my committee said that I was ready to wrap it off. So that kind of forced me to speed things up really quickly and not as planned. I had a whole plan on how I was going to look for opportunities, what programs I was going to apply in that last year, and then plans changed very drastically. Then in the middle of that, COVID happened. I'm in the middle of finishing my last data collection stuff. I'm in the middle of writing my results back so I can fly back to Ecuador and report back to the community that I work with, that I spent so many months with. I was not able to do that the way that I wanted to do. So I had to be very flexible and being okay with letting go of things that you're not able to control. At the same time, no one was accepting anyone for postdocs during that time. Like most labs were telling me that, you know, it's very unfortunate, but right now we don't know how long this thing is gonna go. So there's no possibility that we can sign up to get a postdoc. Or same with a lot of jobs. I applied for postdoc, I applied for regular jobs. I was desperate at one point because I just needed to find my next move in a timeline that one, I didn't plan, and second, you know, a pandemic that also I wasn't counting on. So I would say, I don't even know how to explain this because I think it was like a very messy year, but none of what happened in that last year was what I had planned. I knew that I wanted to leave academia very early on my PhD. I was not fulfilled with the work that I was doing in academia. I was not happy at all. Also, I was prioritizing financial stability. It's one of the main reasons why I decided during my PhD that I wanted to leave academia. I was ready to have financial stability. I'm sure everyone here, you know, can see themselves with that decision as well. But yeah, you know, lockdowns happen. I'm writing my thesis with the data that I have, even though it's not what I wanted to have for at the end of my thesis, but I just needed to do what I needed to do at that point. I knew very early that I wanted to be an EIS fellow during my PhD, and this is something that I got to know because alumni from my program used to be an EIS. So I knew I wanted to do EIS. It's just that you had to apply a year in advance when you are interested in this type of fellowship with CDC. So again, no one was hiring new people for postdocs. No one was hire anyone for absolutely anything in the middle of lockdowns. What I did get lucky was that I had multiple mentors. And when I say mentors, I don't necessarily say my PI. I know a lot of people who became my mentors and gave me the support that I probably didn't receive from my PIs at the time. So one of them, she started writing emails to people that she knew that work in the field that I was interested. So let me go back a little bit. My background is very interdisciplinary. I started doing basic science, then I move on to public health and health policy. And then after that, I decided that I missed a little bit the bench too. So that's how I got into a PhD program that it was translational science, that you get to do basically the combination of both work. This is the bridge between basic science and public health. The issue with that is that at that time, not a lot of places were doing this type of work, especially in academia. Academia was still a very like either or type of program. It was very difficult to find opportunities that will allow you to bring together all those skills and apply it into your job. So that was also another reason why I was deciding against academic work. The fellowship at CDC, that's exactly what I do. I apply all the skills that I gained during my studies, and I do more applied science, which is also something else that I wanted to do. So I sit down with one of my mentors, not sit down, I filmed her with one of my mentors, and I talked to her about, these are the skills that I have, this is what I want to work in the future, these are the specific things that I want to do. And, she emailed a few people, and I got very fortunate. I got very privileged that we found one person who had the funding to get a postdoc. And even though academia wasn't my plan at that moment, I decided to take that opportunity. First of all, because I needed a job. And second, because my train of thought was, maybe I just had a bad experience during my PhD. Maybe it's not academia, maybe it was just my experience. So I decided to, give it another chance. And that's how I ended up in Atlanta. Initially, I went to Emory and I did a postdoc at Emory, also in Global Watch. The entire work was remote. So it was also very weird to defend in your house, in your living room, and then start a new position in your house as well, and never getting to know your colleagues. But at that same moment, similar to Paige, I was also very interested in AAAS. So I was deciding between AAAS and the CDC EIS fellowship. And I basically just waited. What are the skills that I want to work, what I'm passionate about, and something that I'm very passionate about is being on the ground. I really love working on the ground, being on the field, tracking diseases, something that makes me really passionate. And also a lot of my work is related to disparities, which is also part of my master's degree. And at some level, I don't work directly on policy, but everything that I do here gets translated into policy and into implementation programs. So I felt that EIS fellowship was a better opportunity for me. And the deadline was months before AAAS. So I basically say, if I don't get into EIS, I can apply to AAAS, because the deadline was in May for CDC and the deadline for AAAS, I think it's October or November, if I remember well. So I just shoot my shot. I never thought I was going to get here. If I'm being 100% honest, I think I told Giovanna, like, I don't think I'm going to get accepted when we were having our one-on-ones. And Giovanna pushed me to like apply either way. So I just shoot my shot. I took a path that I was not planning to take. And sometimes that's the path that you need to take to get where you want to be and what you need to be. And even right now, I'm in the same process. Like my program is 2 years. And in June, I don't have a job after June. So I'm in the process right now, again, of what I wanted to do after this. So it's very not similar to your PhD, of course, but it's more like a postdoc type of position where you still need to find what's going to be your next move and what are the skills that you want to put into the future and what's something that makes you really passionate at the end of the day.
Does anybody have a question for Denise? I have a question, or Don, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hello again. So I know you said, you weren't really looking at academia, but now, you're kind of in something that really speaks to your passion. But out of curiosity, in this, I guess this new journey that you're on, trajectory, I should say, that you're in, have you ever encountered anything that made you second guess like what your passion is? Like, have you ever thought about like, you know what, maybe there's some doubt in this passion thing that I'm trying to, attain. Maybe I need to look at something else, or do you just kind of let it roll off, bypass it?
I think every day I question myself, because I like multiple things, right? My background is very interdisciplinary. So I think every single day I had that question in the back of my head. Is it something that I see myself doing long term? Is there something else that I want to get more experience in? So even though right now I'm in a place that I really enjoy what I do, there's also like many options that I haven't explored. And you get a little bit of FOMO. Let's be real about this. You get FOMO, you like multiple things. So yeah, like almost every day I question myself whether there's something else that I want to do. So for example, I now that I'm in that again, in this transition of what I'm going to do next year, I have thought about going back to policy. So one of the things that I have in my head in the past few months has been, do I want to continue be at CDC? Do I want to move to DC and do more and pursue more the policy aspect of science and health? So I think that's normal questioning yourself. I think as we grow, we're always growing. We're always, developing as people and as human, our interests are going to change. So I think it's pretty normal to constantly question those things because we're always evolving. And as we get new experiences, we're going to get interested in different things as well.
Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Giovanna,
We
you're
can't hear you. Yeah, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm on the phone. One thing that I want to talk with the entire group about is this concept of flexibility and of being flexible both with your goals, yourself, being kind to yourself when things don't happen and when you don't have things, when you don't have control over so much. But I also want to ask Denise, similar to the question Dom asked Paige, was there something that you saw value in doing the postdoc or something you found of value in doing the postdoc in terms of transitioning to this other position that you're now more, that was more aligned to your ultimate goal?
Absolutely. My postdoc was very short. I'm not gonna deny this. I'm very honest. Because I got into CDC, so I quit it. I wanted some time for myself. But yes, I don't regret doing the postdoc. I get a whole set of skills that I didn't have before. I was doing more advanced statistical analysis for my postdoc because that was the only thing I was able to do during, lockdowns. And that was a skill that I didn't have. So I gained new skills. I met new people, amazing professionals at Emory. Emory is a great institution. If you're considering moving forward with a postdoc, I think Emory is a great institution. It has great opportunities. So it allowed me to see like maybe my PhD experience wasn't the best, but that doesn't necessarily apply to everyone else and every other institution. I learned that, moving to Emory, I learned that there's great institutions out there. There's great experiences out there. I learned new skills. Again, I met new people. And actually, I subbed in a few months ago on a conference. So even in academia, now working at CDC, you're still going to collaborate with many folks because science and public health is a very small world. And you're still going to see them. So you still network, you still gain new mentors. And they're going to continue like pushing you forward to whatever next step you decide to take.
Thanks, Denise.
I have a question.
All right. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So along those same lines, Denise, if you don't mind talking about the conversation with your postdoc advisor about leaving relatively early. I mean, you said it was short. I don't know what short is to you, because that is something I have considered, doing a relatively short postdoc while waiting for the next step. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my initial contract was for a year in my postdoc. I quit it after 9 months. Initially, after my PhD, I had planned taking some time off, but of course, that didn't happen. So when I got accepted into EIS, which you're gonna know approximately a year in advance, or like less than a year in advance. You're gonna know with time that you're gonna get into EIS. So when I knew that I was gonna get into EIS, I decided that was the best opportunity for me to get the rest that I deserved and that I needed. So I quit it after 9 months. I'm not gonna lie, he was not very happy about that. He actually said something, he actually told me I was gonna regret that decision, so he did not take it well. But I think that one of the things that helped was that I was very clear of what were my long-term goals, and that as much as I was learning in his lab, My goals did not align with the type of work that I was doing there. And, the work that I was going to do at CDC aligned more with my career goals. So that helped him understand better my decision. I also was very straightforward with the fact that I wanted financial stability, and CDC is offering me almost double the salary that a postdoc is offering me, which is, he also was not happy about that answer, but that's okay. So I think at the end of the day, you need to stay true to yourself, follow your intuition, and it's your journey. You're the author of your own story, and you know best what you need for yourself and for your career, and you need to stay true to that, even if people are not happy. You're gonna upset some people along the way. That's okay, as long as you're not hurting anyone. And also, of course, it's for you and whatever is gonna work for you in the future. Now we're good. Again, he also works on Watch, so I have seen him in conference, and he's happy. He's very proud of me. He just needed to, he just needed to feel his feelings in order to support me at the end of the day. But yeah, a year later, I saw him, and we're doing great. So.
Thank you.
So I'm guessing it's my turn. Giovanna, you're muted.
Again, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying, let's go on to Jose.
Okay, thank you. So I can totally relate with Denise and Paige. My journey is a little non-traditional because I am undocumented. I have DACA, so I've experienced a lot of obstacles because of that situation that forced me to learn how to maneuver educational system to help me get opportunities. So I always had that skill, I guess, but I forgot about it a little bit in my early grad school years when I joined my first advisor, whom I later discovered was very toxic. So after 4 years of being in the lab, I decided to quit that lab and switch to another lab. And I abandoned that thesis work, which was very hard. But something I want to let everyone know is that when I was at my lowest, I guess like quitting or almost quitting grad school, that was like my lowest. How much worse can it get? After I reached that situation, I realized how a lot of fears I had to let go. And so when I joined my new mentor lab, I decided, you know what, if I'm gonna do this PhD, I'm gonna do it by following my gut, because I feel like I had in my previous lab, I was so interested in learning from people who have a PhD that I forgot to follow my gut. And I was just trying to listen to these people. They have a PhD, they know what they're doing. I should just listen to their advice. But a lot of the times, the advice they gave me, I didn't agree, but I didn't listen to myself because I felt like, who am I? I have no PhD. I don't know what I'm doing. So when I switched labs, I told myself, I'm not gonna do that anymore. If I'm gonna do this PhD, I'm gonna follow my gut. I'm gonna do things that make sense to me. And I'm not gonna just do things that people tell me. I'm gonna negotiate. If you want me to do something, I have to agree with it. If the rationale is not there, I'm not gonna do it because my time is precious. So with that decision and promise that I make to myself, I began my new PhD with my new advisor. And I was very fortunate that my new advisor had a lot of wisdom, and she knew that I needed time to figure out who I was as a scientist and person. So she gave me a lot of freedom to explore what am I good at? And I'm like, what am I good at? I don't know. So I started to learn, I started to do experiments the way I should do. And with my boss, who's very collaborative, she always encouraged me, don't isolate yourself, don't do things alone. Really network, go outside and ask for help, which was something that I was not encouraged to do in the past. Because initially, I think if I ask for help, people are gonna think I'm dumb, I'm not good at what I do. So I had a lot of fears before, and with my new boss, she told me, no, it's okay, let that go. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to network and do things like that. So with that newfound confidence, I was able to move forward with my new thesis project. And initially, in the past, I had studied development in the pancreas. So when I joined her lab, it was completely new thing that I had to learn. And it was scary at first, but I had a good boss and I had good colleagues, and I was never doing things alone. It was all collaborative. So it was really fun doing my new thesis work. And as I was doing things, I was like, can I train people? And I learned I can train people. Okay, does that mean, do I want to do academia or industry? I wasn't sure, and I wanted financial stability because I do support my mom, because she's disabled. So of course I was thinking industry. But honestly, my passion wasn't always there because I love training, I love mentoring students, and I found I'm very good at it. So as I continue my journey, I realized, grant writing, academia, it's all about grants, right? So what is that? How do you get that? So I want to learn how to do that. And I had a good opportunity where my boss was using all my thesis work to write an R01. And, she's very humble. And I noticed she was struggling, juggling a lot of projects in the lab and writing an R01 grant by herself. So I kind of reached out to her and asked her, do you need help? And she said something very nice. She said, yeah, if you want to help me, I'm open to you helping me write this grant. So that kind of, she opened the door for me to jump in, and I wrote the research strategy, majority of it. And that was a fun experience because it was like a little playground activity for me. But then eventually she got it. So it was really good for me to learn that, because then I got more confidence in my abilities. So with that, I thought maybe academia is something I should do. And then I did the YCA program, and they really gave me a good overview of opportunities available for PhDs, like industry, nonprofit, science communication, and academia. So given my own reflection of what am I good at, what do I see myself doing 10 years from now, which is what Denise and Paige did a good job outlining. Like, think about your future 10 years from now. What do you see yourself doing? And how would you eventually get there? And it's good to have those discussions with your mentor and other people outside in your network. So with that in mind, I knew that I wanted to do that. So I was very happy to attend postdoc recruitment events that were virtual, for example. I know Giovanna sent a lot of emails about this, so I signed up for one of them. And it's a great opportunity to get yourself exposed to how people do postdoc presentations and what postdoc programs are available, other the benefits and all that stuff. So I encourage you all to try to reach out to apply to those events and try to be part of it, because it can give you a good idea of what a postdoc can be. And after going through the experience, I was also reaching out to postdoc labs, and how I found about those PIs. I did my work, I read their papers, I look at their training trajectory, I look at if they have R1s, funding, things like that, because if I want to do a postdoc, I want to make sure I find the right postdoc for me so I don't suffer. And it's important to also get training. So I know for a postdoc, I want to get more training in grant writing, and I want to get more training in publishing. So I need to go to a lab that has a lot of productivity in that area. And so I'm in final stages of choosing that, but I haven't made a decision. But despite that, one thing I'm juggling right now is publishing. Oh my God, publishing takes a while. So I would encourage you to, even if you're in your fourth year, which a lot of you are, start planning that paper outline. Start talking to your advisor, which journal, and you don't have to wait for your advisor to choose a journal. You can look for, things like that. So I'm now submitting manuscripts and a lot of rejections, but then revisions, readjusting the manuscript and resubmitting to the journal. It just takes a while. I did not anticipate how long it takes to publish. So that's part of my learning trajectory. But given that, I really took control of my situation in my committee, and I told them this is what I want to do. They gave me feedback, and I listened to a lot of it. Sometimes I didn't agree with their feedback, so I didn't listen to that portion. But at the end, if you have people backing you up, which is my boss, because my boss pays for me. So when I was thinking, do I graduate last year or this year? She has funding for me, so I'm just gonna stay one more year. So that's where I'm at. And I'm just trying to prepare. So when I transition to my postdoc, that's the critical time to do that. It's like the Olympics, right, for academia. So I just wanna make sure I'm ready for that stage. And importantly, don't leave your lab if you haven't published a paper, because it's gonna be tough to finish that. Who's gonna do the work after you're gone? If you don't know, then no one's gonna do it. So start talking to your boss about that transition period. And because it's important, and you can start as early as a year in advance. And that's fine if they're not ready, but you can start having those discussions with your committee. It's just, there's so much power we have as students. So don't forget about that power. They invest in so much in you, and they believe in you. So just advocate for what you want and what you need. And if they're telling you to graduate early, you don't always have to do that. You can talk to your boss and and discuss, do you have funding for me? Because if you do, I'd rather wait because I'm not ready. So it's okay to have those discussions. So I encourage you to really talk to your PI, but also your committee and outside mentors. So thank you. I'm trying to be quick.
Any questions for Jose? Yeah, Dom.
Hello again. You know, what stuck to me was the journal publishing. Man, that is a whole nother hurdle. But, you know, often I see like when applying for like postdocs, it's like, oh, submit at least like 3 publications or something like that. And, you know, maybe for someone like me, like I'm kind of in that process, like in the waiting game, like things have been submitted or we're getting ready to submit. So have you, like, has anyone, I guess, from like your committee or your advisor kind of cracked down on you saying, you know, you may be like behind or anything like that in terms of applying for postdocs, but don't have those publications just yet? And does that, if so, has that made you feel like you're not as qualified because you're not at that level quite yet?
That's a good, yeah, I was there. I asked my committee, should I start reaching out for postdocs? They told me because your paper's not done, no. But then the YCA, this is why the YCA is so cool because someone, when I was having this workshop, someone said, you don't need a publication to reach out for postdocs. That was key for me because once I made that realization, I didn't, it doesn't matter my paper submitted. I reach out for postdocs, I started setting interviews. And when I had that interview, I presented it was like my thesis. It was my thesis work. That was my chance to advertise my skills and my research interest and whether they can fit with that lab. That PI didn't care that I didn't have my paper out yet. He just cares that he knew I had the skill. So if you go out that angle, I think you can still reach out for postdocs. You don't need that publication yet. It's important for your career, of course, but and your mentor can vouch for you that, yeah, you know, they're gonna get the publication. So that letter rec is also very important. And the letter rec from your committee members or outside mentors. So to answer your question, yes, like I was intimidated because I don't have my papers out yet, but realizing that they're gonna get done eventually, I can still have that post. If they give me that postdoc interview opportunity, that's all I need because when I give my postdoc talk, which is usually an hour, that's my time to shine and to advertise what I have done, what I know, and what I want to do, and how I can be a good fit for their lab. You can totally sell yourself in a postdoc that way. You don't have to have your papers published yet, but of course you're doing the work and it will get done. And sometimes PIs know, they know it takes a while to publish, so they understand. They can be very understanding. Maybe not all PIs, but some of them for sure. So I would still encourage y'all to reach out for postdoc as early as a year in advance before you finish, because still the postdoc interview experience is very enriching and you can learn so much about that.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the Paige and Denise, do you want to comment on that?
I would say that I agree with Jose on that. I received the same advice to start applying for postdoc, even if your papers were not published yet, because like Jose said, you're gonna have time to present your work. I think that's very typical when you're looking for postdoc, that they want you to like present some of your work. So I just presented my thesis. So I remember someone once told me the same thing, like you should not find a postdoc if your papers are still not published. But I'm very grateful that both of my PIs, because I had 2 PIs, because it was a transdisciplinary PhD, both of them said absolutely no. Start applying, start emailing people, start networking. You are going to have a chance to present your work and your skills, and you're writing your manuscript, so you can say that it's a working process and it's not published, but it's drafted and you're working on it. So absolutely, as Jose say, start emailing people and start finding your postdocs.
Another thing I just want to add real quick, I have a paper in bioarchives right now. So that was one, and I talked to my boss, we're not gonna get this paper published. Can I just pop it out of bioarchives so I can use that to advertise for postdocs? And she told me, yeah. So I did that too. And as a way, I also use that to advertise for postdocs. Look, I have a paper pending. It's not done yet, but you can still see the quality of work that I can produce. So that's another way you can go about it. I'm not afraid of getting scooped, so I don't care about that. So I just pop it in my archives, and you'll be surprised. Actually, some people reach out and they give us feedback, so it actually help us to improve the manuscript. So that's another option you can consider too. And submitting the paper by archives is easy. It's very easy. It's not super formal, so you don't have to do all the other like technical stuff that's required for that for the other journals that are for sure peer review.
Yeah, I want to just, plus one what Jose said and what Denise said. I think going out and networking for a postdoc, if that's the next step that you're interested in, you don't have to wait to have a publication. And in fact, I think if you wait for that, you might be, cutting it close at the end. People will be interested in having that intellectual discussion. And as Jose said, that, if you can talk about your research and have a story, that's the most important thing. But that said, in Jose's case, he's interested in an academic career. A publication is very important for that career. So he's mindful that before he leaves his lab, he wants to have that wrapped up as much as possible, because otherwise it might be difficult to finish up that publication after he leaves. So those are things you need to consider. If you go back to the postdoc module, the videos you saw at the very beginning, being clear about, what is it that the postdoc, what is it that you want to go towards? Will the postdoc help you in that final, in that goal, career goal that you have set for yourself, or in figuring out that career goal? Is it going to be a stepping stone position? And how much is a publication going to serve you with those goals? And in some cases, I'm going to be honest, if you need to cut because you have other priorities, a publication is not necessarily something that will serve you on the career path that you've chosen, and you are in a hurry to finish up and wrap up for whatever reason. It's like Denise said, it's your career, it's your life story. You have to do what's right for you. So I popped in the spreadsheet. You guys had a lot of really good questions for the fellows. So I'll just open it up and, either ask the question that you wrote there, or if there was a question that you also had that is really important and nobody's bringing it up, so just bring it forward. I'm gonna shut up now.
Okay, I'll jump in. My question was, it's along the lines of if you have any tips or tricks or just, I don't know, general suggestions of like juggling, finishing up experiments and writing to get the dissertation out. I'm currently in that position. I'm aiming to graduate in May, so I have to defend April-ish, the beginning of May. And I just was given an additional project with the idea of having like potential other paper, but it just seems like it's going to add time to my timeline, and I'm trying to juggle finishing those experiments while writing up what I have right now and just getting out the door.
I wouldn't mind jumping in on that one. I think that when I started getting closer to like, okay, I really have to sit down and actually start writing this dissertation, I was really, really stressed because I was juggling not only trying to finish my PhD, but also juggling my PI's R01. I had a very unique situation where my boss lived in Israel, and she was my primary mentor, and it was only myself, her grad student in the US, and like one other research assistant, if we could keep the research assistant, because there was a lot of people who did not want to keep up the workload. It was a lot to be able to run a study where you're collecting data from 8 to 12-year-olds, you're keeping up with them at multiple time points. Kids are fun, but they're also very chaotic. And so it was hard. So I had to start being realistic with my time and start blocking out days or certain like time points in my schedule where I was like, this has to be dedicated to finishing off this particular section of my dissertation, or this time is dedicated to the acquisition of my boss's data, and telling her that I am only one person. I am not an octopus. I can only do so much. And so, you know, during these particular hours, I'll be writing. Please don't ask me to do anything related to your study. However, on this day, I have your back. I have the commitment to that time. And so I would use my phone. I would have those things blocked out on my calendar, but also I had to use Outlook, Notes app, because I'm one of those people who's a little bit more scatterbrained. So I need constant reminders in multiple areas to keep up with what I'm supposed to be doing. And also I had an accountability group. So if you don't have one, get your friends who are finishing up their PhDs. The folks who are on this call could be your accountability group with being able to commit time to finishing your dissertation. I had some really incredible friends that we would meet on Mondays and Wednesdays for 2 to 3 hours, or for as long as we need to at night. And we would just write our dissertations uninterrupted and check in hourly, like, okay, what progress have you made on this section? You said you were going to do this part of your dissertation. Did you finish that? Or how much work did you put towards that? Okay, if you didn't, what do you need to do to be able to accomplish that? And we all gradually finished our dissertations together, which is beautiful. And we still utilize our accountability groups today as postdocs, or as one of my friends who's finishing up medical school at the moment for her MD PhD. So it's just about, you know, trying to figure out what works for you and just being honest about, can I do this? Because you can't do it all, you know, when you're trying to finish up the dissertation. Like, you just have to figure out what time can be allocated to it and just prioritize, because the end goal is finishing.
I can jump into, I totally agree with Paige. That's kind of what I did too. There's another fellow grad student in the same lab that I'm in, and we both want to reach graduation by June. So we're both like, she was struggling because our boss couldn't really give us a lot of feedback how to finish our dissertation or even manuscripts. So I kind of, again, use this opportunity to kind of play around with, can we do this together? So every week we decided, you know, finish figure 1 of your paper, week 1, figure 2 of your paper, week 2. And that involves the figure and the actual text, written text. So we kept doing that for like a month, and boom, we have a paper outline. And we gave that to our boss, and she gave us feedback. So now our papers are ready for publication. But in addition, I also thought about, you know, how is my thesis going to look? How many chapters? So start planning and outlining. And you can do this a year in advance, and you can start doing little portions throughout the year, just like Paige was doing with her accountability group. I was doing it with my other group, other peer in the lab, but we were like not working together. It was on our own, but then we sent it to each other and gave each other feedback. So you could also do that, because I know we're far apart, right? But we can still try to, you know, you can meet virtually or set up times to give each other like deadlines. And they're soft deadlines too, because thing happens, you know, so things get delayed. But if you start having some sort of plan and consistent like schedule of doing things, it does kind of push you to get it done, and it kind of becomes a habit, so you progress faster. Another thing is also, if your boss is asking you to do more work, you can totally think about, is this really aligning with my thesis work? Because do I really need this, or do they just need someone to help with that? So is that really in your best interest? It's okay to tell them, you know, let me focus on my thesis first, and then if I have time, I can help you with that. That's okay to mention that, because at the end, you know, your bosses will always ask you to do things. So it's okay for you to say no back or renegotiate, because at the end, of course, even if my boss, she's super nice, but she still asks me to do a lot of things. And sometimes I don't agree with it. So it's okay for me to negotiate back and tell her, you know, I know you want me to help you with this or initiate this collaboration, but I don't have time. So maybe let me finish this. And if I have time, I can help you with that. If not, then you need to find someone else to do that. And that's their job, to figure out who can help them do that. That's not your job to do. Your job is to get your thesis out, graduate, and move to the next thing, because you're a student. Don't forget that, you know? So I do agree that accountability groups could definitely help you, but also start thinking in advance how you see your thesis. Because for me, chapters 1 and 2 are one paper, chapters 3 and 4 are another paper. So I already have a plan how it's going to look. And if you work on your manuscripts, which I really encourage you to prioritize, if you can, that will save you so much effort when you put the thesis together. Because even though my thesis is not fully finished, I already know how it's going to look, and I already saved myself a lot of text because I can just recycle the papers that I'm publishing. So that's another option you have. And I encourage you to do those things because it's going to help you. Even if you want to do academia, just try to get a publication now because that will give you options in the future.
I just wanted to quickly piggyback off of what Jose said. With sometimes like the group that you choose to be like a part of your mentorship towards finishing the dissertation, they can be some of your best advocates. I remember my boss tried to add on another chapter to my dissertation, and they were literally like, oh no, she's done way too much work. Like the dissertation's completed. She doesn't need to do another thing. Is this going to benefit you or is this going to benefit her? And they didn't say that last part, but it was implied. So sometimes like picking out that committee can be really essential. So you're picking out some people who will be in your corner to back you and to kind of speak truth into the situation, especially when you outline out your dissertation, at least do like a rough outline of what you actually have. Sometimes you may have more than enough data to work with. It's just a matter of getting your committee on board and having people who will go to bat for you if your boss is trying to add on more analysis.
Thanks.
Piggyback again to Jose. Becoming assertive is a very difficult skill to get, but it's a very important skill. And it's difficult, right? Like as students, we are afraid because of that power dynamic, but also, let's be honest, as women, they don't teach us how to be assertive, right? So learning how to be assertive is very difficult, but you're gonna take that with you forever and continue doing it in your entire career. It's gonna benefit you. So like another thing that I applied was giving my PIs a deadline. Like I need you to review this, I don't know, the chapter or this section or this data or whatever by this specific day. And I kind of learned that they follow up. When you give them a deadline, they actually do it. Like your PIs also have a lot to do. They also have grants and things to review. So giving them a deadline helps them as well. And I still do that. Like in my current position, I give deadlines to my supervisors. I need you to review this by X day, please, so I can continue doing my work. And going back to saying no when they ask you to do more experiments, it's okay to say no. You know, like it's hard, but it's okay to say no. It's okay to ask them questions about, okay, how is this going to benefit my thesis? And if it's not going to benefit my thesis or my research question, then let's talk about how this is going to delay me on the work that I have to do. It's okay to ask those questions. I know it's very intimidating sometimes. The first time you're probably going to be shaking, that's okay too. And the second and fifth time you're going to be shaking as well. But with time, it gets easier and easier to, you know, being assertive. Another thing that worked for me was on Sundays, I usually do a plan for my week. I still do that to this day. Sundays, I take 30 minutes, an hour of my night, and I make a plan of what are the things that I want to accomplish in this upcoming week. And that has allowed me to, you know, start my Monday like right away, being productive because I already know what I want to accomplish and on that specific week. And the accountability system, oh my God, I cannot emphasize how helpful that is. I still do that. Like right now I'm writing a manuscript and me and my colleagues, I have another colleague writing a manuscript for one of our projects. And on Fridays, we take 15 minutes on Fridays to check in each other like, okay, did you accomplish your goal this week? What were you able to write? What was difficult? Why were you not able to write? You know, like we don't have now the time to sit together and write, but at least having 15 minutes each Friday where we ask each other, do you reach your goal? Has becoming helpful. And also it's kind of exciting, right? Because you want to tell your colleague, hell yeah, I wrote this. So it kind of like push you forward to continue doing that. But something that I want to say is also learning how to be kind to yourself. You're not going to accomplish your plan sometimes. Be kind to yourself. It's okay if you're not as productive one week as you would like to be. Life is hard, the world is difficult, there's a lot of things happening around us, and we also have our personal life. So be kind to yourself. If you're not as productive one day, that's okay. Listen to your body, listen to your needs, and what do you need to do to be more productive the next day or the next week.
Thank you.
I kind of wanted to jump in and ask Denise a little bit more. Everything you've three shared really resonates with me. But I wanna take you all and push you to think about the worst times of that phase of finishing your PhD, and what tools did you use to navigate your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, while trying to push through and finish. Yeah, I'm speaking for myself, but also for for everyone else in the call. Shit gets really hard, gets really fucking hard, and the world, for me personally, always seems that it's kind of falling apart in all directions. Both in my institution, in this fucking society, in my family, and like my attention is just like limited in terms of like my attention and my energy are limited in terms of like what I can put out. And I always feel like it's being compromised. And I really want to exercise what Jose is mentioning about taking control of your situation, taking control and commanding your committee. I want to be more assertive as well. But I have people telling me like, you know what, like you can't really put deadlines on academics. So like, tell me how you did that, first of all, because every person I've asked in the last couple of weeks tell me this is not possible. Like I have to be flexible. And I'm reading a book specifically on writing your dissertation where like they suggest like have a window of at least 5 to 8 weeks per chapter for them to give you feedback, which is completely absurd to me. So tell me how you did that. And then for anyone else, please jump in and give us tools. Go back to the worst moment and tell me how you navigated it.
Sure. I'm trying to say it's kind of like two answers in one. I mean, two questions in one. For the last one, the deadline, I don't know. For me, my personal experience, everyone that I have worked with, they love that I put them deadlines. And they have told me, oh, no one has ever tried this before, but it actually helped us because we put it on our to-do list and we know that we also need to do that. So it's very difficult for me to tell you how, because in my experience, as soon as I ask them, would it work if I give you a deadline? Usually their answer is yes. We have a lot to do. If you don't tell us when do you need it, we're going to forget. And we're not going to do it. We're not going to prioritize it. So maybe influence the people that I was working with. I was flexible. I'm still flexible. I think flexibility is very important, but I don't think 5 weeks it's fair either to you. There's a difference between being flexible and not being taken care of by your mentors. Like flexible for me, for example, is that I gave a deadline to my supervisor last Friday. I told him I need you to review this by Friday. He couldn't do it. We're doing a response right now. He was very busy. Monday, we have our meeting and he said, I am so sorry, Denise, I didn't have time to review this, but I'm doing it right now. Like, to me, that's flexibility, right? He was honest. He told me why he couldn't meet my deadline. I understood there's flexibility. And I think today I saw that he's almost done giving me comments and edits on what I sent him. But 4 weeks, I think there's a bigger issue there. And I don't know, the skills that is academia, I don't think that's fair. I think your mentor should prioritize your work, because at the end of the day, you need to graduate, what's one, and also they benefit from you. They benefit from your publications, they benefit from your presentations, and they benefit from the fact that you're gonna have another student graduating. So again, I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know if Jose
Yeah.
wants to jump in,
I
and
can
then
jump
after
in real
that,
quick because I've been in a lot of situations like that. I think, someone gave me good advice when I was in high school because when I was undocumented, my high school counselor told me, why do you bother taking AP classes if you cannot even go to college? And at that time, there was no DACA. AB 540 was just new in California. So it was kind of like, what do I do? Why should I work hard? And also, my mom was in an abusive relationship and we were not stable home. So we were all over the place. But someone really gave me some good advice at that time. And I appreciate because they told me, focus on the things you can control. So when they told me that, I realized, what can I control right now? I cannot control my mom and choosing toxic men. That's TMI. And then I cannot control, like being undocumented. That's just my reality. So what can I control? And I told myself, I can control studying. I can control trying to get good grades and having that hope that my hard work will pay off. And even though I don't know how I'm gonna go to college, if I work hard and I believe maybe there will be an opportunity, something will come up, and I want to be ready for that. So that means I need to have grades. I need to be ready for that. So I had that hope that it will improve, and I took that with me my whole life. So that's what's helping me move forward because it can be very tough. You yourself can hold yourself back, and you don't even realize it. So what I would suggest is to really, like, if you need to finish your thesis, you need to finish your thesis. So you're asking what tools are available. When I'm in a situation where I don't know what to do, my go-to is look at examples. How do other people do it? So in my institution, there's all this, whenever a student finishes their dissertation, they have it in the library. So right away, I went to the library and I checked 10 different dissertations. How did students finish their dissertation? How many chapters? How did they structure it? How did they write it? How did they do, etc.? So there were some good ones. There were some really bad ones. So I found a template that makes sense for me. So then I made my thesis outline, 4 chapters. Each chapter has a clear message. I'm writing that now, and I have a good boss that she does meet my deadlines, but she gets overwhelmed too. So as a backup, I have my committee members. I ask them for feedback. And if they're busy, then as a alternative, I have other outside mentors that are willing to give me feedback. They're not my committee members, but they're strong supporters for my success. And if I give them enough time in advance, they're willing to give me feedback. So I would suggest let me ask you, Beth, did you write your thesis already? Do you have some chapters completed?
I'm in chapter 1 currently.
Okay. Do you have
I
an
want to
outline?
try to finish it.
Do you have a thesis outline? How many chapters?
3. There were
Okay,
going to be
great.
4, but I'm scratching 1. Yeah.
That's cool. So start writing them, and if your boss is not giving you feedback, that sucks. But you cannot wait for them. Backup plan is committee members. Committee members are not being useful. Backup plan, outside professors that are willing to help you, or you can reach out to us, YCA fellows. We can help you. We can give you feedback because we have these writing skills. We have background knowledge. We not may be experts in your field, but we have feedback for logic flow, writing content. Like, we can be a resource for you too. So don't limit yourself to just your institution. You have an outside network you can totally take advantage of. That will be my suggestion.
Yeah, to actually
Thank
go
you.
said, holding people accountable to deadlines can be hard sometimes. So I realized the best thing that works for me is sending calendar invites. So it'll be like, hey, on this day, we were supposed to have this done. And so sending that and having that reminder between myself and the other person is a nice way to kind of make sure that we're keeping the ball rolling, or at least we have something to look forward to. And that we are anticipating approaching so that we can get the ball rolling on getting that task done. So I found that was also really helpful for me. But going back to your first question about navigating mental health during trying to also finish a PhD, I struggled with this. And I actually learned throughout my PhD, and it totally made sense once I got the diagnosis that I have an anxiety disorder. And it got progressively worse as more demands were on top of my plate, as there were more tasks to be done, more to accomplish. I'm the only graduate student. I'm literally having to be independent and learn things on the fly. So I crashed, and I crashed really badly. But I felt that the things that were the most helpful for me was setting up consistent routines. So meditating, I had to factor in time for myself to really decompress and breathe. Breathing deeply and scheduling time to do that. Because I think as graduate students, we have this go, 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 go mentality. Everything has to get done right now. We got all these tasks on the to-do list, but did you schedule any time for yourself when you were mapping out that schedule of, I got to finish this paper, I got to finish this dissertation thing, I have this meeting, I have that meeting. I mean, if we can sit there and schedule meetings all day, then we can also schedule time for ourselves so that we're making sure that we're showing up as our best selves. And I had to actually start doing that per my therapist's requests. So putting that in my calendar. Also community. I had to start finding other people who look like me. Being one of the only Black women graduate students in my program, actually the first graduated in 2020, and she was a YCA fellow in 2018, Kayla Miles. She started introducing me to other folks or other Black women PhDs that I could talk to and just be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. This is just not working for me. I'm having these issues with my mentor. I'm having these discussions with my mentor that aren't going well. And I've had to have some very, very difficult talks with my boss about the way that she's spoken to me or about being insensitive. Like when I started my PhD, I remember it starting with a police shooting of an unarmed Black man. And throughout, you know, when 2020 rolled around, another one where there's all this racial unrest and, you know, all these other people are being, you know, woken to the fact that these inequities are present, but they never stopped existing for me throughout my PhD because they followed me inside of that ivory tower and that academic setting. And I had to really recognize that, you know, sometimes I wasn't able to show up fully as myself because of these circumstances, or I was tiptoeing on conversations, and I had to just kind of put on my big girl draws and be like, this isn't working at all. And I need to have this conversation with my boss about how I can effectively finish this PhD, but also for her to stop like halting opportunities for me because she wants me to fit into this box and go into academia and be a professor and all this other stuff, as opposed to my own interest and staying like true to what I wanted. So I had to have conversations with my program director. If you have a good one that you can talk to and confide in, I would suggest doing that because sometimes they can give you the language to be able to navigate those difficult conversations. But when you actually have that conversation, stand 10 toes down when you have that conversation with your mentor or anybody else, just so that they're very clear about where you are and what you need in order to finish up with your dissertation. And I think that once I started, like, they were hard conversations and they got tough, very, very tough. But once I was able to have those, I felt that things started to get a little bit better for me because I could be honest. When I had to take a mental health leave and absence during my PhD, I had to be honest. And that was hard, but I realized that it was so beneficial to me to be able to be like, I need to reclaim this time because I'm not going to show up as my best self for this doctoral degree if I'm having panic attacks, or if, you know, looking at my to-do list makes me like go out, like just kind of bawl in tears. So you got to just have to start prioritizing you and thinking about what can I do in order to be my best self and focusing on those things.
And I will follow with that. During my PhD, especially like the last 2 years of my PhD, on my personal life, I was going through hell. Like, I'm not even going to deny, like, I will not go into detail, but I was going through hell on a personal level. Like, there were so many things happening, you know, on my personal individual life, but also my family's life. Like, there was a lot. And I was like depressed. I was like clinically depressed. I got diagnosed with anxiety. And then ironically, I got diagnosed with OCD. So like, how do you like manage OCD and anxiety? Make like zero sense. But here I am, I have OCD and I have anxiety. So like what Paige said about finding your group if it wasn't because of the community that I built it, and I hope you have that, I hope you have either friends, or partner, family, whatever it is that it's community for you, that you have it, because those were the people who helped me up. Like when I felt that I was on the ground, they were the ones who like hold me up, and they were the ones who took me to the finish line. Like if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have graduated. And then on top of that is looking for resources and outlets. Like if you have the ability and you have the resources to seek mental health treatment, like go to therapy, I 100% recommend everyone, absolutely everyone, to go to therapy if you have, you know, the resources to do that. At some point, I got medicated for anxiety because my anxiety was getting so bad. I was having panic attacks every day. Like at 2 or 3 in the morning, I was waking up in the middle of the night, full panic attack. So I got medicated for a long time. And it's okay to say these things out loud. I feel like no one wants to talk about, you know, the dark side of like doing your PhD and also mental health and the fact that we have a life. But I got medicated. I went to therapy. I needed to do what I needed to do to be myself again. And in that moment, that's how it looked. It looked like seeking therapy. It looked like getting medications. It looked like, I don't know, like Paige said, like booking some time for yourself. So Fridays were my time for myself. I love watching movies. I'm a homebody. So Fridays, my rule was that after 6, monitors were closed, computers were closed, cell phones were off, and I'm just gonna watch a damn movie. If I wanna watch a Hallmark movie on Christmas, I'm gonna watch my Hallmark movie on Christmas with a bottle of wine and popcorn and just take that time for myself. Yeah, like you need to take care of yourself at the end of the day, because if you don't have yourself, if you don't have your mental health, everything else is gonna fall apart as well. Like you're the most important thing in the whole world, not the degree, not anything else. It's you. And it sounds harsh because a lot of people are gonna be like, no, PhD is important. No, your mental health and you are important. And then finding other outlets, whether it's, I don't know, like running. I know a lot of people who run. I don't run. I'm very lazy. But like whether it's running, dancing, drawing, listening to music, find your outlet that allows you to leave, you know, take all of that out. I think Jose mentioned something about control earlier. I had to learn to let go of control because I have OCD. So different from a lot of people, right? Like that take control of their situation. I had to learn to let go of things that are out of my control. And that was a big lesson in my life. I'm not in control of a pandemic, right? So I had to learn how to be like, it is what it is. There's a pandemic. I cannot finish all of these things that I had planned. Just laugh about it. There's nothing else I can do right now than just to like laugh, but also feel it. You're gonna be sad. That's okay. Be sad. Feel the sadness, but also be okay with letting go of the things that you're not able to control.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate.
Yeah, this has been amazing. And I was just looking at the spreadsheet. I think you guys touched on a lot of the questions that the fellows had in terms of like dealing with emotional well-being, juggling the different, you know, milestones and timelines, and applying at the same time as doing your dissertation. Tips for how to focus on writing. So I think we covered a lot, and I just looked at the time and it's like already we're out of time. So in the interest of not going over too much, I would like to ask Paige, Denise, and Jose if there's anything that, a critical piece of advice that you feel we have not touched on yet.
One thing that I just want to touch is that you're not alone. I know as I'm getting close to my defense, there's a lot of these final experiments that are coming up. And I'm like, shit, I don't know how to do this. Like seahorse metabolism, I have to do that. How do I do it? I only have a few months left. So one thing that I encourage y'all, if you need to collaborate, just collaborate, because just ask around your institution, like who can do this experiments, who knows how to do this, reach out to them, ask for their help. If they're willing to help, you will move so much forward faster. So don't be afraid to network, to do collaborations, because and your boss may not be aware that there's people on campus that can do this experiment. So you just be open to attend work, you know, meetings, those I don't know, lab meetings or workshops that, or those invited talks by people that can, you know, help you potentially do experiments, because I'm in a point where I have to do all these final experiments that I'm not always, and I'm not familiar with. So it's okay to ask people for help and advice, and ask your boss, hey, they know how to do that experiment. We should reach out to them and collaborate because they can help us do the experiment. We don't have to worry about it. So it's okay to have that, to do that. And I think we forget how much power we have as a community, and it's okay to help each other out. And that's a nice way to collaborate and bring some people in your paper for publication, so they get something out of it too. So I encourage y'all to branch out, network, collaborate. You're not alone doing experiments. You're not alone finishing your thesis. You can do so much, and it's okay to delegate, to collaborate, and get help from others.
Yeah, those are all really, really good ones. I think like one of the big ones that I took from my PhD was that not every PI is a mentor, and that um, differentiating the two was really critical for me, so I could start finding like those mentorship relationships that were going to be uplifting and that were going to like feed my soul and make it feel like my cup was running over. And so I started just talking to other faculty members and, you know, starting to create some like personal relationships with them, that I could go to them when I was having issues with my mentor, well, with my PI, and really have transparent conversations. Another thing is that, you know, all institutions have academic writing centers. So if, you know, or they should have one. So if you are looking for tips and tricks for finishing up your dissertation, there should be people available to, you know, provide resources or give training or just provide you with just kind of some of the foundation for being able to navigate that. So yeah, some of the things to think about.
I think Jose on page said everything, but yeah, emphasizing that community and mentorships are very important, and mentors not necessarily translate to PI. I did not have great PIs. I have very toxic relationships with my PI. So I had to seek mentors outside of them and also outside of that institution. And those are the people who are going to help you continue building in the future. People find mentors that they're there for you, that they're going to uplift you and that they believe in you. It makes a drastic difference in your life, to the point that they might even contact you 2-3 years later because they saw a job opening and they talk about you. Like, those are the people that you should have in your network. And similar with your community, surround yourself with people who support you, who love you, who believe in you, who are going to be cheering for you and going to be your cheerleaders 24/7. And when you're down, they're going to, like, you know, hold your hand and they're going to walk you right into the end. That makes a gigantic difference in life. Take care of your mental health, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself. It's a hard process. It continues to be hard, I'm not going to lie. Like, some days I get frustrated, some days I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And that's okay. You know, we're still growing, we're still learning, we're always evolving. So just be kind to yourself in this process.
Thank you, Jose, Paige, and Denise. You guys have been amazing. And I know we're at 8:30 Eastern time. I would like to ask you to give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes because I want to wrap up and also give you a few reminders. Reminder number one is that you have the emails of Jose, Paige, and Denise in the bios that we share with you. Feel free to use them and to reach out. If you have any additional questions, I know some people had some questions that were specific to some of our panelists, so use that. And along the same line of the advice that we've just been hearing about asking for help and relying on your networks of support, you guys are an amazing network of support, and I was so happy to see the beginnings of an accountability group start. I think that's a lovely idea. You guys are, many of you are at the same stage, so I think there's a lot of power in getting together and tackling some of these challenges together. So I hope you guys can can get together and make that happen. There's so much power within this group and so much insight and wisdom and heart and strength. So I think that's one of the most beautiful things of YCA, is seeing that the network, the cohort is a resource that keeps giving. So I hope that you make use of that. This is the meeting for about a month and a half or so. Our next meeting is actually in February. You're soon going to be getting an email from us about video training that is going to be made available to you at the end of December, and that you have up until February 6th to take a look at. So Rosa, Monica, and some of our expert science communicators have been working really hard to put together a course on effective public engagement. We know that a lot of you are interested in connecting with different communities, whether they're communities related to your research, whether they're communities, your communities of origin or that you identify with, or people that you want to help. So this course is how to help you be more effective in those engagements and in those interactions. Not just science communication, but how to really incorporate the feedback and insights of other people in your communications. I think this is something that's translatable for some people to the research. For some people, if you want to become a better science communicator, this will be for you. You don't necessarily have to have a project that you're planning. I think there's lessons that you can take. We'll have a lesson on how to manage your time, how to not reinvent the wheel and leverage resources that are there, how to have conversations with your PIs about your interest in getting involved in other activities. So I think it will be helpful. So expect an email from us with more instructions about that. I want to also shout out and elevate Engmarie's activity tomorrow that she sent out. It sounds amazing. I wish I would have had that resource when I was in grad school. It's a series on careers after academia, how to get hired, and what the interview process and tips for your CV. So thanks for sharing that, Egmarie. If you have any other things that you would like to share with the group, feel free to use that mailing list. And yes, just, there's a lot of love here. I'm so thankful to Denise, Paige, and Jose. You guys are amazing. Please keep glowing and sharing as you do. And I want to wish everybody happy holidays, a peaceful and restful season, that you get your energy recharged, that you get to connect with loved ones, and we'll see you in the next year, so we can get started again to focus on your goals. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Thank you,
Feliz
Giovanna.
Navidad.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. Abrazo.
Thank
Bye.
you. Happy holidays.